Alright guys, welcome to this live stream today. I'm going to be looking at some of the most recent news and events in the market, and then also going over some of our usual charts, and then outlining a couple of interesting trade ideas which I've been shuffling around with in the last few days. So I'm going to share some of those with you guys right now. So let me just go ahead and get this on. Alright, so this should be working now, shouldn't it? Alright, okay, so first of all, looking at some of the interesting news of the day. Going over to the Seeking Alpha page, we can see here that Tesla has been pointed out by Wells Fargo as a likely stock that is fallen out of the Magnificent Seven. Interestingly, though, this comes they give it Tesla an underweight rating. We have here a quote from their analyst: "Remain concerned with the recent moderating trends across all three key regions. Few levers remain to increase volume outside of pricing and model refreshes." And while I do agree that Tesla is facing some challenges, it's quite interesting to note that this has come out on the eve of Tesla, giving us a pretty significant 6% rally here yesterday. Not much in terms of news I'm not really sure what sparked that rally, but it's definitely interesting to see that take place. Now, on other more broader macro news, we did get that PC data recently. So US PC came in a little weaker than expected, or actually came pretty much in line with what was expected, but it actually didn't increase for the first time since I think last November, and basically kind of supporting that disinflationary narrative. Now, this has shifted a little bit our target rate probabilities, as we can see here, though we still don't expect a target rate cut for July. As similarly, as we move into September, which it is not doing, let me just refresh that real quick. Having some trouble with this website. Anyway, overall, why isn't this refreshing? Okay, so we can see here the target rate probabilities for July at 91% that the rates will be unchanged. If we move on to September, which does not do. Alright, never mind then. Forget about that. Here we go. So as we can see, it's all the way out to November that we actually get a little bit of an idea that we might get a rate cut here to about 525, but still, probability still, of course, favoring that rates will remain unchanged for most of the year. You can see here for September, we do see here that there is a overwhelming majority of people, or about 60%, expecting a rate cut there. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Something to take into account, no doubt. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about crypto. Of course, this interesting news in cryptocurrencies. The DOJ's US Marshal Service choose Coinbase to custody crypto asset. So as we can see, the US Marshal Service has selected Coinbase Prime to take custody of and transact its crypto assets following a request for proposals. So pretty interesting. Again, kind of supporting that view that we've been talking about for a while. I've written some articles on Coinbase. That idea that it's getting now some traction in terms of, I guess you could call institutional demand, and basically Coinbase being a vehicle for a lot of these institutions to come and basically get into crypto, and Coinbase to manage that. So as we can see, Coinbase Prime will be responsible for implementing storage and liquidation techniques in compliance with Department and USMS policies. So basically we can see that Coinbase is gaining some traction there, and we can actually see that in the last day the stock actually did pretty well. We saw Coinbase appreciate about 5% following that news. So again, pretty pretty good. Now, if we actually have a quick look at the Coinbase chart here, it is pretty interesting to see. A couple of interesting things to note. First of all, if we look at the seasonality here, as we enter July, we do see that Coinbase has a mean change over the last 3 years of 17%. So pretty favorable dynamics as we move into July. We can also see a MACD crossover starting to appear here, of course. And overall, the way I see this, is that possibly that we're still finishing this impulse that we started back here. So we hit the lows in Coinbase back in December 2022 at around $30. And since then, we've gone all the way up to 300. So pretty good return, of course, for anyone buying that bottom. And basically what I've done here is if we take this Fibonacci 3-point extension, right? So we measure from here, go to the top of what we could call the wave 1, and then to the bottom of 2 over here. We can see that our wave 3 extended to about the 1.236 extension. We saw a reversal there, and then we now have our wave 5, which could easily target about 340, maybe even higher, depending on how this goes. But again, pretty favorable dynamics. Again, we've seen the price now break above those key moving averages on the daily chart. So for anyone who doesn't have exposure already to Coinbase, I would say that it is beginning to look quite good. Similarly, if we look at some of our Bitcoin charts, we can see, for example, Bitcoin is also doing pretty well in terms of a reversal. So we did see this rally pretty strongly in the last couple of days. Yeah, so we struck that bottom. We got that wick down to about 58,000, depending on where you find this. I didn't see it go down that far, but we basically found support around that $60,000 level, and we're already seeing some pretty favorable dynamics here. We're seeing the MA cross over here on the 4-hour chart, and just if we zoom out to our weekly chart, just to get an idea of the big picture, not much has changed in that regard. As we can see here, basically we're still looking at this being our completed wave 4. You could essentially call this an ABC correction. So it would be our ABC down here. And then basically, we're still looking to reach somewhere around this target here, that $100,000 target. Obviously, we've got this trend line coming in here from those previous 2 peaks. And then if we look at, for example, the Fibonacci extension here, right? If we go all the way back to this top here, so we'd expect to hit perhaps somewhere around the 1.618 extension of that. That would get us to about 102,000, as we can see here. So this is pretty much our target. And again, speaking of the seasonality, obviously Bitcoin, a pretty favorable seasonality going into July as well, although not so good for August, September. But nonetheless, it does look like a pretty favorable dynamics, and I think that we could have completed now this this correction in Bitcoin. So again, good time to get some exposure there, whether it be through Bitcoin, Coinbase. MSTR is another one that I think could do well, though we did see it fall yesterday, interestingly, even though Bitcoin has rallied. Yeah, so similarly we have, I think, here kind of a wave 4 of sorts, kind of playing out on the smaller degree time frame. So let's switch that to the log chart to make it look a bit better. So again, I think here on the more micro level, so first of all, we're finishing a larger impulse here, and then on the more micro level, I think we're also establishing a pretty solid bottom here around 1300, and I'd expect this to about double at least. I'm looking for 2600 at least, being that 1.6 extension of our reversal here. Now, with that said, I also wanted to take this chance to have a look at some features that I've been using to find stocks lately. One of those is, of course, the market scanner. Now, I've been developing a few market scanners here on TrendSpider, which can help us kind of find some interesting opportunities. So first of all, here, for example, we have a pretty simple scanner that looks at a potential EMA cross, so the 20 EMA crossing over the 50. And then also we're looking here for a hidden RSI divergence, okay, meaning that the price is making a lower low. Sorry, the price is making a high while the RSI is going lower, right? So for example, we just ran this scan on the S&P 500 and we can already see that we found 3 interesting opportunities: AutoZone, also have Copart Inc. and Blackstone. Yeah, so if we look here, for example, at Blackstone on the daily chart, we can see that we're coming close to that crossover of the key MAs. Now we also have support down here, and we could also say that basically we're seeing somewhat of a divergence here in the price. Okay, so if we look at the price over the last 10 days, it's gone up while the RSI, has been kind of flat, almost coming down a little bit, right? Especially if we go from around here. So again, interesting way of finding some opportunities there. Another one, for example, here, where we're just looking for a regular RSI divergence, right? So here we're looking for the price making a lower low while the RSI shows strength, right? While the RSI stays a bit higher, right? So for example, we just ran this scanner on the Russell and we can see here, for example, INMD in mode limited is one that comes up. Okay, so we can see here, pretty interesting. Obviously, the stock has sold off quite a bit, so definitely a situation of catching a falling knife here. But with that said, we can see that the price has made some lower lows while the RSI has held decently well. Okay, similar story here if we look, for example, at Loop Media. So we have here so we have here the price obviously making lower lows, and also here on Postal Realty Trust we have, for example, the price making a lower low while the RSI, this one is pretty clear, while the RSI has been trending higher. So this one looks the best to me. We're also now breaking above that 20 EMA. So again, just pointing out this feature, which can definitely be quite helpful. So it's pretty simple, really. If you want to just run a scanner here on TrendSpider, it's actually pretty easy to do. All you have to do is you can even do it using a GPT. So you could just try, for example, RSI oversold, click apply, and it's going to search all the stocks in the Dow Jones where the RSI is oversold. You can see none there, but we could look at some others. Or for example, we can take that off, and then we could even load some from our template, right? So if we want to do an RSI bullish divergence, we can just press here, and we can see that it has all of the necessary records, right? It's basically created parameters so that the RSI is basically trending up, right? The RSI now is greater than 5, 10, or 15 days ago, while the price is going lower, right? Basically creating the parameters for the scanner to look for divergences. And now, just to wrap up, I did want to also have a look at a stock in particular, which has been doing quite well. It's one that I wrote about a few weeks ago rather, and that is Palo Alto Networks. Now, a couple interesting things. Obviously, the stock sold off quite substantially after its earnings, and now we've seen it really recover. We saw this crossover of the MAs. We also have the RSI here making higher highs, as well as the price. So pretty solid movement in the stock. And what's most interesting, I would say, is that if we look at this cool new feature we can see here on TrendSpider, we can see first of all Congress trading. So government sells over 15k. So we can see who's buying or selling stocks. So pretty interesting to see first of all people here, for example, selling Apple stock, Starbucks, Microsoft, all those different stocks. But we also have here the of course we can track one of the most successful investors of all time, Nancy Pelosi, and it's pretty interesting to note that Nancy Pelosi did open a position on PanW, on Palo Alto Networks, right after that sell-off, right on February the 23rd. So yeah, that was just after this drop. So again, encouraging in terms of a trade to see that Palo Alto has that support, that Nancy Pelosi is buying shares of Palo Alto. So definitely something to take into account. Right, and that's it for today. We're going to leave this update done for today. Guys, as always, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.